being embedded in a community. Great to hear that from both of you. Let me just steer the conversation towards staff a little bit more. I think, Dominique, you mentioned that in a way that this also goes for staff. I remember in the peer coaching group where we met, which I very much enjoyed and which was a very helpful format for me, we drew up sort of a so-called infographic, a graphic solution of what staff in higher education needs to be able to do, what competences and skills they need to possess: empathy, flexibility, intercultural skills, management skills, etc. The list goes on. Yeah, so working in higher education also demands a lot from staff. I just wanted to first ask you what you think is most important, but also if it doesn't get too much sometimes. I mean, it's not just being a teacher, it's not just being support staff, it really branches out. Dominique, maybe if you...
I would say flexibility helps a lot, especially in an environment as some huge academic institution as the University of Vienna. There, it has a tradition of over 650 years, and changes happen very slowly. It takes a lot of time. Yeah. So patience is also something you need. You often need to adapt very quickly to a new situation. What's also very important, and this has been a bit of a difficult process for myself, to learn to listen to yourself. You cannot meet everybody's expectations, and expectations sometimes are huge. And don't let yourself be pulled too deep into this. Sometimes you just need to listen to your body, because being sick doesn't help anybody. But when you try to meet everybody's expectation, when you try to be something you're absolutely not, it just makes you sick. And unfortunately, I did have that experience.
Oh, really?
So sometimes it's better to do less and focus on that. So if you have like 10 items on your to-do list, sometimes it's better to do 5 of them properly from the beginning through the end, and not do a little bit of all 10 of them. Mm-hmm. And I know criticism is something none of us likes, but that's something you also have to be able to deal with, because especially doctoral students do expect a lot, and sometimes they do not take a no easily. Sometimes you just have to repeat yourself a lot, which can also be tiring. But it's important to know where your own qualities are, where you're good at. I won't say it's a bad thing to try out something new, but you have to be aware that not everything you want to implement or you want to try out works. It does not work for everybody. So sometimes failure is also okay. It's a learning process, and then you just adapt. But you shouldn't see it as a personal failure, just as something that doesn't work in that specific community or in that specific surrounding. And then you continue. But working in academia sometimes requires a very long breath, a lot of patience, and as I said in the beginning, a lot of flexibility.
Wow, thank you for this. What I heard is also to be able to say no, learning to listen to yourself. Yes, easier said than done for many people. Like, you should stop, but you can't, or you don't dare to say no also to the various demands brought forth to you. How did you arrive at that ability?
I did a personal coaching. This is something the University of Vienna offers for the employees, a service. They pay for it. And I did that, and it was very helpful, because one of the tasks I had to do there is to see myself through somebody else's eyes and then try to be somebody else. So not what works for me or what I expect from others might not be the same as other people expect. So sometimes my personal standard is higher than other people's standards, and I had great difficulty accepting that because I put a lot of pressure on myself and set the standard very high. And I did see it as a personal failure when things didn't work out, like it was my fault. This problem couldn't be saved the way we intended to. But I learned that sometimes it just takes longer or it takes a different approach, and it's not my fault. It's just people are different, and it works with one person, but it doesn't work with another person. And I really learned that sometimes you just need to stop. We're not surgeons, so it's not really like a life is depending on what we do. We do not have to work like 15 extra hours. Sometimes you just shut off your computer and you do it the next day or the next week, and it's also fine. But this is a learning process. It's very hard, and I know that other people adapt to this concept easier. But my working moral was very strict, so I put a lot of pressure on myself, and that didn't really help because that stressed other people out as well because I was stressed out. And but they didn't see it quite as urgent as I did. So for them, it was totally okay that I did it the next day or the day after. Only I thought it was super urgent. And yes, this coaching did help me a lot. So I'm very grateful for the university that they did offer this service. And for me, this was extremely important to go through this.
That's great to hear also for your institution that the support they offered actually helped you. I can certainly relate very much to what you were saying with chasing perfection or chasing also the to-do list. Thank you so much for that. Weronika, for you, what's the most important skill or competence that staff in higher education, teachers, educators in higher education need to possess, and does it all get a bit much regarding expectations?
I think it's something that Dominique just said, is the awareness of my own feelings, my own limitations, my own boundaries, my own flaws, and my own strengths. So for a young teacher, there's a lot of frustration that can be very hard at the beginning, especially when there's a lot of things to do, a lot of lectures to prepare in a really short time, and university is not always helping with that. So you have to very quickly prepare like all of those things. And then when you expect from yourself greatness and something new, fresh, something that the students will love, and you just meeting with like nothing from the student, they just like, that's another lecture, then you can be very frustrated and disappointed, and you can just lose interest in doing that. And I think that's something that a lot of teachers experience, especially at the beginning. But I think I agree with everything that Dominique said. I would just add that being a teacher at the university is also a lonely experience. For me, at least. I didn't spend time with my colleagues. I didn't have like lunch breaks with them. We usually never meet because we have like lectures at different times in different parts of the building. So it's not like I had a bunch of colleagues that I can always talk to and exchange experiences from the lectures, from the students. So I think that's something that not many people talk about, that it's a lonely job. And then at the end you don't have a lot of gratitude from the student, more of a like criticism, and that's hard when you are lonely and you don't know that it's normal that they will criticize and not show gratitude.
Thank you for raising this extremely important point. I find that it is lonely for teachers as well, and really there are no support structures in this regard offered for staff. I think that's a very interesting, highly important point that you raised, and maybe we should work towards establishing more exchange among staff. I mean, for me, of course, I'm eternally grateful for being able to work remotely from time to time, but I know how much I need colleagues that I sit in an office with and we talk and we go to lunch. This really is vital for my well-being in my job. So it's this combination. Yeah, maybe we could do something against this loneliness of people working in academia. It's not only teachers, it's also researchers, and I take it also support staff, Dominique.
Yes, I was very grateful because I switched from one faculty to another last year, and my colleagues there have been very, very open-minded. It's sometimes, like Weronika said, the small things, just having coffee together or having a lunch together or just sitting on the same floor, and then we have this open door policy. So everybody who's in office leaves the door open unless you have a meeting or something. So you can always just pop your head in when you pass by, just say hi, exchange a few words. And I have a much closer relationship with the colleagues that sit in the same building like me, because the faculty is spread on 3 different locations. So we still try to meet at least once a month in a combination of sitting together and having a hybrid meeting with some colleagues just being or joining online, just to have this feeling of being together and exchanging experience or talking about the current news or any changes that apply to all of us. So that's vital. And as you said, Elke, I love being able to work from home, but I also enjoy being in office for a few days and to have the chance to meet my doctoral students in person. Sometimes it's easier to sit with one person and discuss this in 5 minutes. Otherwise, you just have like a bunch of emails that continues, and you could just solve the problem by having a personal talk within a few minutes. So the combination of both of it, that's what I really appreciate. But the human interaction, the actual contact with other people is crucial. And when Weronika said that teachers are lonely, that's something I heard through from our teaching staff as well. And I think this is something that works better between admin staff, in fact, because we have so much to organize that it's crucial to meet and to talk about, because one person knows something that all of us find helpful, and we just make the time. And sometimes it's also because of what we do that we have to work together. So we're kind of forced to be a group and exchange. But I know that teaching each course is something very individual. And if you don't really want to, you don't really have to interact with your colleagues.
Yeah, the loneliness of teachers. I mean, I'm a researcher at this point, and I just had this experience 7 days ago. A colleague and I were analyzing a data set together remotely. Yes, it was 6 hours on the computer, and we both agreed how much more fun that was doing it together. Like, everybody had their own questions and we should look at that. And then we were curious to see, and it was fun, And so we both agreed that we enjoyed this much more than doing this alone in front of our screens. So yeah, also in work contexts, being able to have some sort of social exchange with people is becoming even more important. On this note, you mentioned, Dominique, the combination of talking to someone instead of writing an email. It's much easier sometimes, for me at least, to talk with someone in person, because your expression is different. You can catch misunderstandings early than going back and forth with lengthy text exchanges, but also at the same time, is this old-fashioned, this interpersonal exchange I see among students. They're constantly only writing messages at a rapid pace in really long, and so nobody calls each other anymore on the phone. There are changes in communication, and that's what I wanted to ask. Have you noticed any specific changes in student cohorts in recent years, or how students communicate what they need, different expectations from students?
What I definitely realized is that once they've sent an email, it's done for them, but they also expect an immediate reply. So if you do not reply the same day, you get another email the next day already, even if it's Friday evening
really?
or Sunday morning. So on Monday morning, you've got the 5th email saying, oh, I've sent you 4 emails already and you still haven't replied. But in my working context with my cohort of doctoral students, I have to say, and that's what he actually told me, that they prefer the personal interaction. So when somebody needs something, I'm always giving them the option, like I'm in office on those days, we can meet in person. If you want, we can do a video call, we can do a simple phone call, or we can do this via email, whatever you prefer. And I would say 80% of the people, they want to come to my office in person. They also prefer to sit together for 5 or 10 minutes to just talk this through. And they also told me that they enjoy these monthly meetings we have, even if they can just make it for 15 minutes, even if the information part is not something they need, but they come from the personal meeting opportunity. Even if it's just having a coffee with 2 or 3 beginners, or seeing who else is in my group, and I haven't met them because they hardly ever show up unless it's in one of the classes. And if we do not go to the same class, we never meet because I'm in my 4th semester and you're in your 1st semester. So they actually enjoy this. And one of the biggest compliments I've got was the feedback that it's very easy to approach me and that they can communicate on a very eye-to-eye level with me. So they feel heard and they feel like their needs are being taken seriously. And that's also what I try to do. And I was very happy when I heard that. So that was a kind of affirmation that what I'm doing actually helps them. It's seen. And something I wanted to add to our conversation we had a few minutes before is sometimes that's just enough when somebody says, thank you for doing that, or I really appreciate it that you're doing it. So feeling seen, feeling valued is very important. That makes even if it's sometimes lonely, if it's frustrating, and to be honest, work at university is frustrating a lot of the time, but it has some very great rewarding moments also.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. Thank you for that. Weronika, just over to you. Have you noticed any changes in communication or expectations from students at all, maybe?
I think what students thinks, what they think they want from the university is just knowledge, just going in the class, receiving the knowledge, and then going back home and not thinking about the university. But from my students' life and from what I've noticed from my students, I noticed that the classes that they remember most and they really like the most are the classes when they interact with each other, when there is a discussion, when there is game, when they can do something, say something, when they can play with each other. Those are classes that they will remember in 5-10 years, and not the classes that they gain amazing knowledge, because when they are going in, we as a teachers give a lecture, they going out, they will remember probably like 10% of what I've just said. But from the classes when they had a game, when they have to do something, to say something, to think something, and to show that to the whole group, those are classes that they will really remember.
Yeah, amazing. Again, this need for social exchange, social contact, that's pretty powerful to hear that from you.